Hello, everyone. I hope you're having great time so far here at the Speaker Hall and IFX Expo International. And I hope you're ready for even more knowledge-packed panel discussions. I'm thrilled to introduce this next session, the Fintech Banking Evolution, Paving the Way Forward. Please welcome on stage our moderator, Lissele Pratt, CGO and co-founder at Capitalixe, who will introduce her panel and guide us through the labyrinth of fintech and banking evolution. Lissele, dear speakers, the stage is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you enjoyed yesterday's opening party. Welcome to our panel called the Fintech Banking Evolution, Paving the Way Forward. So my name is Lissele Pratt. I am the CGO and co-founder of Capitalixe. We are a fintech consultancy specialized in helping medium and high-risk industries to obtain payments and banking solutions. I am also a Forbes 30 Under 30 honoree, podcast host of Success Secrets, and recent winner of Rising Star of the Year at the UK Fintech Awards.
Thank you very much. Morning, everyone. My name is Sarvjeet Singh Virk. I'm the co-founder of FINVASIA and managing director. Coming a quick background, so we are in diversified backgrounds, mostly in tech space, in fintech, and we own Zulu Trade, FXView, and at the same time in India we're building up a digital neobank. Besides the global offices and expansions we have in fintech, health tech, and real estate.
Hi, I'm Alex Phillips. I work for Marsh. Marsh is the leading global insurance broker. And we're really excited to be here because we've got a new fintech insurance product that is going to protect fintechs a lot better than they have been from insurance in the past. So we've got a lot of stories of when things didn't go so well. So we can sort of share that on the panel, but look forward to it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Goda. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to join your panel. I'm head of sales at Bankera. I joined the company 3 years ago, and the company belongs to one ecosystem. It is a bigger ecosystem. And Bankera itself, it's an electronic money institution, but it's licensed in Lithuania. It offers payment services starting from the traditional banking accounts, white label solution, card issuing projects, embedded bands. We are principal member of Visa and MasterCard. And we have another 2 companies that plays a really important role in our ecosystem. This is a crypto exchange platform that called SpectraCoin, and technology solution company, Banking Lab, that provides banking core. So it's short about our company.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yosef Kamel, and I'm so honored to be here with this panel today. I do have more than half a decade of experience in fintech industry, with a strong background in sales, business development, and also building partnerships with clients. My current role is in AstroPay. I work for a global e-wallet, which is the next super app. We currently have more than 11 million users globally, providing 200 local payment methods, and also operating in 120 countries, mostly emerging markets. Previous to that, I also worked in neobanks. I also worked in payment orchestration system, and so honored to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your lovely introductions. So yeah, let's just jump straight into the questions, beginning with you, Goda. So how has the relationship between traditional banking and fintech over the past few years evolved? Would you say it's more competitive or more collaborative?
If we look over the past decade, fintech industry became a major force in the financial industry. With the rise of digital technologies and growing customer preferences, I think banks are no more the only players in the market. So I think that it is more collaborative than competitive because traditional banks started to use fintech companies for the technology solutions. So we don't have to build it in-house. And fintech companies started to use banks for the services that they cannot cover themselves. For example, we can take SWIFT transfers when fintech companies, they are using intermediaries to cover their clients' needs. So definitely, I think it becomes more not competitive, but Collaborative, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Over the past few years, we've seen a lot of collaboration between fintechs using banks and the banks using the technology of fintechs. So it's great to see that collaboration happening. What's your take on this, Sarvjeet, on the collaboration between fintechs and banks?
I think we're trying to move to the next stage from being collaborative and competitive. I think we are trying to get to a more customized ecosystem right now, and that's more because first we have made the initial move of traditional banking to being more digital banks, and then suddenly neobanks come over and they realize that we are not that tech savvy, and then they started evolving, and the whole agility which fintechs carry gives them a huge advantage. But I think the space where we are eventually moving is creating a more customized ecosystem for all of us, where even though the banks would continue to be the custodians holding custody of money, but the fintech will probably drive to a larger extent of what this space has been missing for so far. I'll give you one simple example. Historically, the banks were built to be more accessible for everyone to go and visit and pick up money or do your basic transactions. But I think now we have moved to the entire usability ecosystem where everyone wants more use, more user-friendly app, and everything to be digital, right? Nobody wants to walk down to a bank and saying, hey, can you please do this for me? I think that whole world is moving to create that one-stop, financial ecosystem. And that's where I think the whole existence of each as a bank and fintech will probably take to the next leap where, the both will exist, both will try to compete at times as well. We should not, hardly believe that the banks don't want to be fintech. They would love to do it, but the legacy doesn't allow them to do more. But at the same time, I think the fintech would really take things next with how they can build, how they can transform things much faster than banks. And that's where I think the future would be.
Yeah, I completely agree about how banks are, obviously they want to be the fintechs as well, but because of the big legacy of the banks and the overheads, it's just pretty difficult for them to change the system of how they're currently doing it. That's why the fintechs obviously exist. And there's obviously another side of it, which is the regulation side. And Alex here, obviously our expert in regulation. What role do you think regulation plays in shaping the collaboration between fintech and traditional banking institutions?
Yeah, I think it's easy to get hard on regulation and new regulation coming through, but overall it probably has been a really good thing for fintechs particularly. And so just to look at some examples, open banking, when that came into the UK, really opened up like more data, more information, help for third parties to be able to give better products to customers. The PSD2 regulations coming in for payment process. There's a lot of people downstairs in that space now, thanks to that regulation. If we look at the new checking around AML, it's constantly evolving with sanctions. There's a lot of work that's really interesting going on in looking at deep fakes as well, and the work that you can do in that. And there's a lot of reg techs who will help banks with that because it is a very, very specialized role now. Because we're a global firm, we are starting to see other things coming out of the US, for example. So consumer protection in lending, there's a new Truth in Lending Act coming through, and it requires basically the banks to be able to provide more information on loans to consumers. And that's something definitely that the fintech industry can help a lot more with. And I guess post-COVID as well, one of the big regulatory things they've been looking at is vulnerable customers with the sort of, I know we're coming on to it later, but the death of the sort of high street bank. Fintechs do an amazing job, I think, of coming in and helping out, giving people much easier and actual education in banking, which is something that traditionally they weren't offering. And I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the way to evolve. We always have to take into consideration regulation as well. And there's always so much information to take on. And, well, obviously there's so much to regulation, isn't there? So for the next question, I'll start with you again, Goda. In your opinion, what are the most groundbreaking innovations that fintech has brought to the banking industry, would you say?
Well, if we compare the fintech innovation that came with initially with the fintech era, I think that digital banking with online verification, mobile payments, mobile applications, and of course cryptocurrency payments. We cannot imagine our world without mobile apps, without mobile payments. So online verification and then the significant work in industry. I think it is amazing what we can do without going out of our homes or offices. We don't have to knock at the bank doors and say, hi, I want to have an appointment to open a bank or a bank account for myself or for the business. So it's an amazing thing. And crypto payments, so they allow us to make instant payments. Yeah. So I think it is
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, gone are the days, well, for this country, for most of Europe, but gone are the days where we had to go to the branch to do payments and send payments internationally. Now, thankfully, because of technology, we can just do it from an app, and it just makes life so much easier, doesn't it?
5 minutes and done.
Exactly, yeah. Makes life so much simpler. What's your take on this, Sarvjeet?
So I'll just give you some, and I part of my experience will be relatable to people who have exposure to India, because that's been becoming quite, as a fintech country as of right now. Let me give you some, interesting data facts. In India, we have around 77% of people who actually have some kind of exposure in financial institutions. But guess what? Only around 6% have demat accounts, which is used to hold, holding and trading. There are around 33% people who use mobile for payments, but guess what? There are only 6% who hold credit cards. There are around, recently UPI, I'm sure you all must have heard about it. It's a complete end-to-end unified payment solutions. And the total volume which happens on the UPI transaction last month is around 15 trillion rupees as a cost, as a volume to it. And guess what? There are only 10% penetration of UPI. So when you are talking about the innovation, when we are talking about what next, I think the data itself gives us a huge opportunity of what needs to be done and what potentially can be done. And this is where I think I keep relating to the digital neobank we guys are building up. And there was a very simple ideology behind it is we have built a blueprint for all of us, year on year. But now the role is to move in building fine prints, right? Those small little use cases, those small little pain points, which we all have been talking about. And suddenly fintech says, no problem, I can do it for you. I can do it without even, making you make an extra effort. And this is where I think the innovation is really evolving. I mean, it's happening on both sides, interestingly. If you look at the companies which also continue to build a lot of products, their back-end securities, their back-end, engines where, they have to do digital lending, all of them has been a great tool for the companies to start scaling it up, certainly. And obviously, it's a win-win for clients because now, they get those digital loans on mobile. They make those transactions right off the shelf, and you're just walking in, you want to buy something, and you say, hey, no problem, I don't have money, but I can still buy. Buy now, pay later. I mean, anything we are thinking about is just creating its own ecosystem, creating its own innovation around it. And I think that's where the interesting part is. And I can't stop to add on that one of our, interesting opportunity which will evolve in the next few years is going to be artificial intelligence. And we haven't even, seen the real power of. We are happy to assume ChatGPT as the first milestone, but guess what? The AI is going to take away positively a lot of our pain points which we never thought that they exist, and suddenly the AI will tell us.
Thank you very much for that overview. And yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how AI will evolve over the next few years. And I think it's really great that you're here as well, because you're coming from a different area, India, and obviously we're quite focused on Europe. So you're giving a perspective on what it's like in for payments and fintech in the developing country like India, where they don't have much access to banking. I read there was a statistic around 70% of Asia's population is either unbanked or underbanked. So it's great that you're trying to make a dent in helping to create financial inclusion. So Yosef, can traditional banks still innovate at the pace of fintech companies, or should they focus on partnerships?
Great question. I was reading recently, Linus Belunos said, banks wants to be fintechs and fintechs wants to be banks. What does that mean? Couple of years ago, it was us versus them, and now it's us and them, right? So we have to work together. Of course, the banks got a lot of challenges after what happened in 2008 with the crisis. We've seen that banks got regulated heavily, and that gave an opportunity to the fintech companies to evolve massively as well. But right now, we're seeing regulations is coming as well and chasing fintechs. So, but we can see case studies. For example, JP Morgan have a budget of 13 billion a year spent on financial technology. Half of that budget is spent on neobanks. So that's massive. That's really massive. That means that, of course, it's much easier to acquire a ready product rather than creating it. Because when we look at innovation, it's not just about technology, it's about people as well. The people that works in banks are totally different people that works at neobanks. Totally different mentality that works at fintech. I mean, when I was 17, 18, I worked at HSBC UK. I was an intern, so I was studying and I was working there. And I remember we had a book that you have to do everything by the book. You can't go out of your way and try to create something. Or you know, make mistakes, or you know, if you make a mistake, was it in the book? No. I remember first week I was afraid to get fired because of this mistake I did. So while working with fintechs, a lot of CEOs, they give you the way to learn, make mistakes, learn quickly, and evolve. And that's what we see in fintechs. We're evolving massively because everyone is trying to create things. So yeah, I mean, obviously, again, going back to the question, I think they should be focused more on partnership. Again, these case studies prove it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, because if they're not focusing on partnerships, then we're going to create a lot more aggression in the industry, which we don't want. What's your take on this, Goda? Do you think traditional banks should focus more on partnerships, or do you think they'll still innovate at the rate of fintech companies?
Well, definitely on the partnerships, because if not, so we will have two different similar industries with the same product. So anyway, it will lead to the same.
And onto the emerging trends. What emerging trends in fintech should we be more excited about, Yosef?
Definitely my favorite one, e-wallets, right? So right now we have 2.8 billion users using e-wallets globally, but 50% of that comes from APAC. So we can see that one from every two people globally from Southeast Asia use e-wallets. And there is a huge opportunity because there was recently a research that shows in 2026, there'll be more than 6 billion users using e-wallets. So there is a massive opportunity for e-wallets to grow. And obviously the growth of super apps, that it's a one-stop shop solution, offering everything besides just banking, but also buying your daily needs within the app in itself. The second one is instant payments and real time. And as they said earlier, the UPIs, the PICs, the prompt QR in Thailand, they're growing massively. And I really believe that it's going to adapt heavily. We can see in Mexico, they're trying, Coda is trying to do something similar as well. So those trends are really important. I was reading also in KPMG, there was a research done a few months ago that the 2030, most focus is going to be on super apps, and the payment solutions, you can easily choose from a payment to another payment depending on what they're offering the user, right? So rewards, loyalty, freebies, cashbacks, that's what users are going to focus on to choose where they're going to bank.
Very interesting. And yeah, you're right. I feel like a lot of different countries have their own alternative payment methods. Like you said, Prompt Pay in Thailand, Portugal have MBWay. And it's just going to keep growing and becoming more popular because people don't want to wait to make payments. And they want it to be done seamless and efficiently. We don't want to do cash anymore. We want it to cashless society.
100%.
Yeah.
That's where we're going to.
Exactly. And what's your take on this, Sarvjeet? It will be interesting to hear more about what it's like in India in terms of the trends in fintech and what India's more excited about as well.
So India has at least covered the first battle of payments in the sense, and I always say that when regulators start innovating, fintechs have more opportunities. And this is where India has been at the phase where the UPIs and the another product which we are working on right now as India is the account aggregator. And guess what? It is more of having access to all your banking transactions on your mobile and transferring it to any financial institutions for any kind of process you want to do it. I think on the emerging trends, I strongly believe that the intermediaries which have been for long will really have to be more value driven instead of offering those traditional banking or traditional solutions. And one of the examples which you were talking about, cashless. So I strongly believe the credit cards or the debit cards are also going to be history, because at least in India we have started a new product where you can go to a bank and from a mobile app you can just take the money out. So you don't need to push in a credit card and say, or a debit card saying that give me money. It's just purely on the UPI, you just scan it and you can take the money out from your bank account. I mean, it's like you're walking to anywhere and you think about it and you don't now need a cash because you have cash in your mobile. Which is again very one of the interesting aspects, and I keep thinking of what next, and I strongly feel that once data starts talking to data, we will have a huge opportunity for the fintechs to evolve, and this is where part of our learning as a neobank we are building up. So the digital app which is going to be focusing is on the cognitive AI, which is more towards what the people are currently doing, right? All those transactions which are happening on daily basis, all the payments you're doing, all the financial transactions. And then there is a predictive AI, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you really want to know. I mean, I keep saying that the money lying in your bank account is not the actual money, because the bank balance is not considering your day-to-day expenses, is not even talking about EMIs, the money which has to go out from your bank every day. If you would know that what's my actual available balance, we do it every month. We try to go back and see the balance bank statement. Oh, last month I had this kind of average balance. Oh, this happened. I kind of bought a mobile. Oh, I had a travel plan. Oh, my friend's birthday. Guess what? I got to gift her. All those things are part of our life, but we are not using that data.
Yeah.
And that's what I think it will really help to build something.
Yeah, I mean, again, not touching on AI, we're just at the surface level, aren't we? And it's going to be really interesting to see where it's going to evolve. Onto the crypto side, Goda, this will be a question for you. With the increasing adoption of blockchain and cryptocurrencies, how are fintech and traditional banking adapting to this?
It's a really good question, because regardless of whether banks and fintech is adopted or not, cryptocurrencies already find its niche in the payment sector. And it is, I think, an advantage for the traditional banking to adapt to the market, to adopt crypto payments. And one of the significant advantage, it is international transfers that eliminates third-party intermediaries and can make a transfer happen in a minute. So even our example from the company-wise, so Bankera acts as a bridge between traditional payments in fiat and crypto payments that we support with our crypto exchange. So we can offer and fiat payments and crypto payments to the client, so they can easily manage the funds.
So it removes intermediaries and makes it a lot quicker and cheaper, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
And now on to Alex, part of the risk side. What are the actual risks that banks, that fintech banks are facing as they evolve in the future?
Yeah, so we probably, just to put it in context, we look after a lot of banks, we look after a lot of fintech banks, and what we're trying to do, it's a big piece of work, is look at how loss data changes between the established banks and the new banks, really. And overall, there's probably like 3 buckets of claim sources. I'd say that's fraud, regulatory risk, and also sort of cyber risk. Now, on fraud, I'd say just almost anecdotally at this stage, but probably the traditional banks have probably got a slightly better handle on it than the neobanks, the fintech banks. And that's maybe because the systems are so advanced that one single vulnerability in that system is very easy to exploit from criminals. And I'm not talking about, a couple of thousand here and there. I'm talking sort of 10, 20 million thefts from the bank. And that's the sort of thing we want to help protect. On the regulatory side, there are definitely case studies of banks that have had, fintech banks that have had regulatory issues, such as Monzo in the UK on AML, but they're not alone in that. There's lots of other banks that have had far, far bigger issues. You only need to look at, say, like some of the banks in Australia to look at that. And then on cyber risk, I actually think this is somewhere where the fintech banks are much more advanced because if you think about it, it took until, say, 15 or maybe 10 years ago, the idea of having like a CISO or someone in charge of information technology on a board at a bank was out, completely would blow their mind. Whereas fintechs are generally, and you do start seeing this more and more, the ones that set up and they've got a really good mix on the board of tech and FI expertise, they're always the ones that actually succeed because they're actually collaborating together to form like the best system, the best way of doing it. And not becoming just a tech company or just a financial services company. And I think that's somewhere where fintech's really, really stepped up in space.
Okay, that's interesting. So you'd say the companies that work in as a team and collaborate together are going to be the winners in the industry, essentially.
100%, yeah, you'd see it. And you really can see it straight away, like, board composition, people backing them. They really, it does actually matter, that kind of stuff.
Definitely. And how do current regulations help or hinder innovation in the fintech sector? And what changes would you advocate for?
Right, so this is a really good question. Not just saying that, but it is. Obviously, regulation, as we said before, has really helped the sector in certain ways. And then there are some sort of political changes that have happened, like, so for unfortunately, Brexit in my country that was a disaster, but it's helped like your country in Lithuania, so that's great. But I think in looking at changes in regulation that I'd really advocate for, I think there should be more sandboxes. So it's one thing the UK did do well is set up more sort of regulatory sandboxes so that people could actually start evolving and testing their products out. I think streamlining of licensing would really help people so that the process wasn't so sort of arduous and long drawn out. Also looking at harmonization of regulations. I think that again, we keep on now touching on AI, but AI is eventually going to have some sort of regulation. It would be better to have fewer regulations that are centralized rather than trying to deal with 27 different regulations about AI in 27 different countries. I'd also like to see more sort of proportional regulation so that the regulation was appropriate to the services being provided by that fintech in that particular service. And I guess finally, I think it's a two-way street, and I think that the regulators could be better educated by fintechs and vice versa, because I don't think it's very, very difficult to get good regulatory staff and hold on to them, and I think it could be a really good piece of work of them trying to work more with fintechs and understand and hire people from that industry who would actually understand it better. Obviously, regulation has a key part. We have to regulate and we have to protect end customers, but there are things that can definitely be improved.
Thanks for sharing that. I'm sure a lot of people in this in the space here found it very interesting about the regulation side. So Yosef, as we look toward the future, how do you envision the role of the physical bank bank branch evolving?
So, talking about branches, how many of you have been to the bank in the past year? How many of you have been? Okay, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's a good start. Talking about the UK, right? So from 2015 till today, there was more than 5,600 branches closed. And in the past 12 months, there was more than 1,100 branches closed. And only 4.4 thousand left. What does that mean? We're doing something with fintech. Of course, everything that, from a financial technology perspective, everything that we built should be around customer experience, user experience, because the user, that's why fintech is created, because he was tired of the bank, tired of how we were treated, waiting hours to get a check paid or to get your money. People want to sit on their sofa and be able to open a bank account, right? Something we did in the UK with AstroPay, we just released a saving account in the UK. So literally on your sofa, you can earn money and have a savings account. So that's what we're trying to do. Again, I believe that going to the bank should be for really, really like urgent matters, like, you know, not going there to just change my home address or going there for, you know, basic stuff that you should be doing on your mobile phone. So again, branches should be there just for urgent and you know, more business to business kind of matters.
Hello?
There you go.
I would totally agree with what you said. However, my granddad would argue against it.
I mean, that's the point that, I mean, my grandmother is in Morocco, so the only way to send her money in cash, she needs to go to the bank and get it. So obviously there is the disadvantages of course, people who are not used to technology and in countries where they are not used to technology. So of course, there's always that discussion keep going on. But let's say in 30, 40 years, the conversation would be different totally. So it's the new generation. They're more deciding to, I mean, 100% I can say that my 3-year-old daughter is going to open her bank account from her phone.
Yeah, definitely. Now on to neobanks, Sarvjeet. How are neobanks collaborating with the fintech startups and AI solution providers to create an interconnected ecosystem that delivers enhanced value to the customer?
Yeah, thank you. You've really picked up two very critical words in your question, AI and value, right? And both of them are really very subjective right now. Historically, if you look at it, you know, there used to be one problem, one solution app, and then we realized that, okay, you know, we can do better. Can we kind of create more comprehensive super app kind of world? And then the next version, which we are now talking about, is the neobanks, which is where I think we are referring to my problem, my solution, my way. Because, you know, even if we try to create those comprehensive solutions, you know, we are all looking forward that can really app know how am I comfortable with? Can we really create those kind of custom app where you don't really have to do everything what the app wants you to do? Could be the other way around. And this is where I think the neobanks and the fintechs are really evolving. I mean, we are talking about the generative AI talking to an explainable AI, right? So you're creating a data, and that data can also create an analysis which then you can read. You know, we're talking about, you know, 70, 80-year-old people, and they're saying, can I ask a question? We're talking about chatbots. We are talking about, you know, asking question, going to my data, coming back with answer which is relevant to my data in the language which I want to understand. I mean, how convenient that can be for everyone, where they don't have to, you know, go and call up someone, the customer care and all those, you know, old style of finding a solution to my problem. But I think, and this is where the whole AI, I believe, will have a larger role to play, because we are massively talking about digital footprint. Now we need to talk about financial footprints, right? Everything we are doing, we're creating our own financial data points, be it payments, lending, saving, investments, everything. We just have that data point right there. What I really feel that the neobanks, along with fintechs and AI, will start working on, how we can create more generative AI, predict how better we can optimize with our money. And this is what our neobank app, process, what we are building up is that we want to give momentum to your money, right? I mean, we want the money to grow. It should just not idly sit at bank. And that's what the AI will do for us.
Yeah, it's again, it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen in the next few years. Now, we're just coming to the end of our session, and I just have a quick fire question for you all. I'm going to give you guys the fire question. So if you guys can, I'm going to start with Yosef first. If you can summarize in 3 points, what does the future of fintech look like to you over the next 5 years?
Less fraud. One-stop ecosystem, right? And yeah, I mean, I think instant payments as well.
Instant payments, okay. And Goda?
Adoption of crypto payments, collaboration between banks, fintechs, and regulators. And I think I have only 2.
What about you, Alex?
I think probably most people in the next 5 years want to see an uptick in the markets and an ability to actually start listing these fintech companies and actually bringing real value to the investors and the consumers and expansion. So I think that's probably what everyone here is probably wishing for, is an uptick in the market.
Definitely. And Sarvjeet?
I always say we all want to know what the data is saying to me. So ultimately, in the next few years, if I'm not even saying if, I'm sure that we will be able to know what we are doing much better, and AI and tools will really help us understand for us to do things better. That's what I think the future would be.
Amazing, amazing. Does anyone have any questions? No? Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for your time, and thank you to our amazing panelists for such a great session. I'm sure a lot of people here found it very insightful. I just wanted to let you all know we're going to be standing outside. If you wanted to ask us, if you wanted to come up to us one-to-one and speak to us, we'll be open for any questions that you guys may have. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.